Welcome. Welcome to this symposium on Microenterprise, Urban Production, and the Architecture of Inclusion. My name is Howard Davis. I'm Professor of Architecture at the University of Oregon and the Director of the Collaborative for Inclusive Urbanism. This symposium is co-sponsored by three organizations. One is the Department of Architecture at the UO. The second is the CIU, the Collaborative for Inclusive Urbanism, and the third is Mercy Corps, who have very, very generously provided this this space in this really nice building, and who've been my partners over the last year in various work which will be described to you and in organizing this symposium. I'd like to introduce a few people before I talk a little bit about the origins of the symposium. One is John Haines, who's sitting over there. Raise your hand, John. John is the Executive Director of Mercy Corps Northwest, and he's been my partner in crime through this last year, very, very supportive of all of our efforts and all of that. We'll talk about that later. Annie Ledbury, who's over here. Annie is a recent graduate of the UO, our Track 2 graduate program, and has been also involved with all of these activities over the years, and has done a lot to help organize this event. Drew Schreiner, the same, who's together with Annie has been working with me on the collaboration with Mercy Corps Northwest. And then there are two people I'd like to mention who are not here. One is Elise Kerr of Mercy Corps Northwest, and Sabina Kuhl of the UO, who were helping with the publicity for the event. I want to be very brief in introducing this because we have a lot of speakers and a lot of people who have some really interesting things to say. But there are several ideas that are coming together in the origin of this event. One is something that I've realized over the last 3 years, which a lot of people here are going to talk about, and that is the growing importance of industry in the American city. Right? We're really, industry is starting to come back to the city. The rate of industrial production is increasing, and there are efforts, initiatives, organizations that are really helping that along, and we're going to hear from some of them today. The second, it's a slightly different world of people and organizations, and that is the growing attention to grassroots efforts in the city, and that's just ground up sorts of things, very small businesses being formed, people who are really operating to some extent outside the established institutions of business, government, or sometimes just inside those, but sometimes too small to be recognized or to get the kind of help that larger firms can actually get. And that is exemplified to some extent by the work of Mercy Corps Northwest. So those two things, the industrial renaissance and the grassroots renaissance, I think, are coming together, or ought to be coming together, but the question is how much they actually do talk to each other. So part of the idea here is to think about those two sorts of groups together and maybe start a conversation or continue a conversation that maybe has already begun. There is a third trend which architects need to recognize, and we all need to recognize, and that's the growing attention to urban design and architecture in the city and the quality of life in the city. As cities, there's all this talk about the revival of the American city. I think we can talk a lot about that one way or the other, right? But there is this, I think, growing attention to the quality of urban life. So all of those things are particularly my own interests. And the University of Oregon really has helped me to bring those three interests together with the sponsorship of a design studio right, which is being taught this term. So a lot of the members of that studio are here. And that sponsorship also has allowed me to invite a number of people from out of town to participate in this symposium, right? So it's really something which is, the symposium is really something which is directed to some extent at this studio, for this studio, but obviously open to the whole community, and I'm glad to see a lot of people here. We have a total of 9 or 10 guests and a variety of formats for the event. There are individual talks, there are conversations among people, there's a panel discussion at the end, right? So there's a variety of ways in which people have chosen actually to present what they have to say and to present their own work. There's a variety of scales of operation that people represent. There are large NGOs, there are very small businesses, right? And there's a variety of kinds of organizations and of kinds of people. There are public agencies represented here, namely the PDC, the Portland Development Commission. There are nonprofits, there are professionals, there are entrepreneurs, right? So the idea here is to mix things up a little bit and maybe get people together who normally might not be together at a conference, at a meeting like this, and to talk together. There are 4 locations in the United States represented: Portland, of course, New England, Providence, and the middle of Rhode Island, Detroit, San Francisco. So it's a real mixture of people, places, scales, modes of operation. So with that, there is one more group who I'd like to recognize and welcome. I was at a wedding last weekend, and the person who came the farthest to the wedding was recognized and singled out. So I'd like to welcome our visitors from Japan. There's a group of about 22 architecture students from Japan, from Meiji University in Tokyo, who've been here for the last week. So welcome to you all, and I'm glad you could be part of this as well. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our first speaker. The speakers have been asked to speak for about a half hour, and we have a slot that's 40 minutes total, right? So a half hour for the talk, and then about 10 minutes for questions and conversations.